It was a bright Saturday afternoon in a quiet town in Ohio. The local police department was hosting its annual community fair at the park, filled with cheerful families, colorful balloons, food stands, and safety demonstrations. Kids laughed as they climbed into fire trucks, tried on plastic badges, and posed for pictures with police officers. Among the most popular attractions was the K9 demonstration, where officers introduced their loyal service dogs to the public. Officer Daniels, a seasoned K9 handler, stood proudly beside his partner, a large German shepherd named Max. Max had a calm but alert presence. Trained in detection and defense, Max had once served overseas in military operations before being reassigned to civilian duty. To the children, he was a real-life superhero. As families crowded around for photos, Daniels noticed a little girl standing just outside the circle. She wasn't laughing or trying to pet Max like the other kids. Instead, she stood perfectly, still, silent and unblinking, staring directly at the dog. She was tiny, with curly brown hair tied in loose pigtails, wearing a pastel pink dress. One hand held tightly to the edge of her mother's jacket, while the other hung limp at her side. The little girl didn't say a word. Her name was Lily. She was just 3 years old. Daniels noticed the stare, and at first smiled, thinking she might be nervous or shy. But after several minutes, she hadn't moved a muscle. Her expression was not of fear, nor simple curiosity. It was something deeper. It was almost as if she recognized Max, as if they had met before. But how could that be? "Lily, honey," her mother said gently, touching her shoulder. "Do you want to come say hi to the nice doggy?" Lily didn't move. She just kept staring. Her eyes seemed glossy now, like she was about to cry, but she still didn't speak. People around them started to notice. Other parents, officers, and kids looked over, puzzled by the little girl's behavior. Officer Daniels stepped a little closer, lowering himself to her eye level. "Hey there, sweetheart," he said softly. "This is Max. He's a very good boy. He loves kids." Lily's gaze didn't shift. Her mother tried to guide her forward, but Lily gently pulled back, refusing to move any closer. Her tiny face trembled slightly. Daniels noticed Max was also acting a bit different. The dog, who normally stayed focused on his handler, was now staring back at Lily, ears perked, body calm, but curious. Max tilted his head and then slowly sat down. He didn't bark. He didn't sniff around or act distracted by the other children. His attention was fixed entirely on the small, silent girl in front of him. Then Lily's lips moved. Her mother leaned closer. "What was that, sweetie?" Lily whispered something. No one else could hear. Her mother's eyes widened. "Did you say?" Lily nodded slowly. Officer Daniels looked up. "What did she say?" Her mother's voice trembled. "She said, 'That dog smells like Daddy.'" Gasps came from those nearby. Daniels blinked in surprise. "Like her dad?" Lily nodded again and added, louder this time, "He smells like Daddy's gloves." Suddenly, the light-hearted atmosphere of the fair shifted. The moment became quiet, heavy with emotion. Lily's mother knelt beside her, tears in her eyes. "Sweetheart, how do you know?" "Because Daddy wore those gloves when he talked to his dog," Lily said softly. "They ran together, like that." Officer Daniels' mind raced. Something about this didn't feel like coincidence. He looked down at Max, who still hadn't moved. His deep brown eyes locked on the child. And for the first time in his entire career, Daniels felt something he couldn't explain. Something was unfolding here, something far more powerful than a police dog. Demonstration at a community fair. It was just the beginning. The murmur of the fair faded as the words left Lily's mouth. The distant sound of balloons popping, kids laughing, and games playing all seemed to vanish in an instant. Her quiet voice, innocent yet trembling with emotion, had pulled everyone into an unexpected silence. A little girl claiming a police dog smelled like her late father wasn't just curious. It was haunting. Lily's mother, Amanda Willis, crouched beside her, stunned. "Sweetheart," she whispered, "what do you mean he smells like Daddy?" Lily's eyes never left Max. When Daddy came home, his gloves smelled like that, and his boots, it's the same. Amanda's breath caught in her throat. Her husband, Sergeant Tom Willis, had served 2 tours in Afghanistan. He was a military K-9 handler. Lily was only 2 when he passed, barely old enough to understand what a funeral meant. Amanda had tried to protect her from the details. They kept photos, a folded flag, and a few mementos in a box, but they never spoke much about his service especially. Not the dog he handled. And now, here was Max, sitting still, alert but peaceful, under the hand of Officer Daniels. Max wasn't acting like a dog meeting a stranger. He was focused, aware. He hadn't barked or reacted to the chaos of the fair. His eyes remained locked on Lily. Officer Daniels glanced down at his partner, confusion mixing with curiosity. "Max," he said softly. "You okay, boy?" Max didn't move. His breathing was calm. His body language was relaxed, but his attention hadn't shifted for a second. He kept watching Lily the way he used to watch the gate in a war zone, quietly, carefully, respectfully. Amanda turned toward Daniels, her voice shaky. "What's your dog's history? Has he ever served?" Daniels nodded slowly. "Yes, ma'am. Max did 2 rotations in Afghanistan before he came back. He's been with us about a year now. One of the best dogs I've ever worked with." Amanda's eyes widened. "My husband, he was stationed in Kandahar. He worked with dogs too. His name was Tom Willis." Daniels flinched at the name. "Willis? I think I remember the file." Lily tugged gently at her mother's sleeve. "He always said Max was his best buddy. He called him Maxie." Daniels knelt again. "Lily, do you remember Max from pictures? From the TV, maybe?" Lily shook her head. "From when Daddy video called. He always showed me Max. He'd tell him to sit. And Max would sit like this." Everyone turned to see Max, now sitting in the exact position she described, calm, centered, and gentle. Amanda's knees gave out, and she sat in the grass, holding her daughter close. "I never showed her those videos," she whispered, almost to herself. "They were too painful. I didn't think she remembered." Daniels looked down at Max, feeling a chill run down his spine. He had no reason to doubt Amanda. And there was something undeniable in Max's stillness, something more than coincidence. It was as if the dog remembered. The same way soldiers carried memories of their fallen brothers, Max might have carried a memory of his old handler. Lily reached out slowly and placed her hand gently on Max's head. "Hi, Maxie," she said with a soft smile. Max leaned forward, resting his head on her tiny knees. He let out a long, slow exhale, as if he'd finally come home. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A few people quietly wiped away tears. No one spoke. No one moved. Even the other kids sensed that this was no ordinary moment. Daniel stood slowly, placing a hand on Amanda's shoulder. "I don't know how," he said quietly, "but I think your husband and Max were partners." Amanda stared at him, stunned. "And now, my daughter found him." The crowd stayed still, reverent. This wasn't just a memory reconnecting that. It was something far deeper. That it was a soldier's bond, reborn through the heart of a child. Lily sat in the grass, one tiny hand resting on Max's thick fur, while the other clutched her mother's jacket. Around her, the air felt heavy with something no one could quite explain. Officer Daniels stood quietly, unsure whether to break the silence or let the moment stretch. The way Lily stared at Max wasn't just familiarity. It was recognition, almost as if she were greeting an old friend she hadn't seen in years. "I want to show him something," Lily said suddenly. Amanda looked down, surprised. "What, sweetheart?" Without waiting for permission, Lily opened the small pink purse she carried everywhere. Inside, tucked among crayons and stickers, was a warm photo creased at the edges, but lovingly kept. It showed her father, Sergeant Tom Willis, kneeling beside a German shepherd in desert gear. Tom had his arm around the dog's shoulder, both squinting under a blazing sun. On the back of the photo was scribbled in neat, military handwriting, "Tom and Max, Kandahar, 2022. Amanda's hands flew to her mouth. Officer Daniels knelt, speechless. That's Max." He looked down at the dog beside him, then back at the photo. The same eyes, the same strong frame, even the same faint scar near his left ear. There was no mistaking it. Max wasn't just a former military dog. He was that military dog. The very one beside Lily's father. Lily smiled and held the photo in front of Max. "See? You remember, Daddy." Max, as if understanding, leaned forward and gently sniffed the photo, then nuzzled it with his nose. It wasn't a trick or a trained response. It was natural, honest, real. Daniels's throat tightened. He knew Max had served before joining the department, but he had never pieced together the full story. When Max arrived, he came with standard military clearance. No handler records, just basic medical and service data. It wasn't uncommon. Many K-9 South were reassigned without their full histories. But now, in this moment, everything clicked into place. "Ma'am," he said, turning to Amanda, "I think your daughter just solved a mystery none of us knew existed." Amanda, teary-eyed but steady, looked at Max in awe. Do you think he remembers Tom?" Daniels looked at the dog, who had now laid beside Lily, his head resting on her lap. His tail gave a slow, calm wag. "I don't know how much dogs remember, but I've worked with this guy for a year now, and I've never seen him like this." Lily stroked Max's back. "Daddy always said Max protected people. He said Max was brave." The words, so innocent yet so powerful, melted the hearts of everyone within earshot. By now, the crowd around them had grown. Parents held their kids a little tighter. Officers stood with their caps off. Even the mayor, who had come for a ribbon cutting, stood frozen at the edge of the park lawn, watching the scene unfold. Nobody was smiling, but everyone was feeling something they didn't expect when they showed up that day. Respect, grief, healing, wonder. Amanda pulled Lily close and kissed the top of her head. "Your daddy would be so proud of you." Lily nodded. "I think he sent Max to us, so we wouldn't be sad anymore." Officer Daniels swallowed hard and blinked back unexpected emotion. "You might be right, Lily." He stood, his voice quiet, but firm. "I think we need to check Max's old military file. There might be more we're meant to find." Amanda agreed. "If this is the same Max, and part of Tom is still with us." Lily looked up with hope in her eyes. "Can he come home with us?" Daniels smiled for the first time in minutes. "Let's find out." Because what started as a child's stare had just turned into something extraordinary, a connection from the past, wrapped in fur, memory, and love, and the story was far from over. The next morning, Officer Daniels arrived at the precinct early, a lingering weight in his chest from the previous day's events. His sleep had been restless, his mind filled with the image of Lily's small hand resting on Max's fur, her innocent voice calling the dog by name, Maxie. He couldn't shake the feeling that something extraordinary had taken place, something beyond coincidence. It was time to find the truth. Daniels unlocked the department archives and began searching through Max's deployment records. Most of it was routine standard information, training logs, medical checkups. But deeper in the files, He found a scanned personnel attachment labeled Classified, Canine Partner Deployment History. He clicked it open. Max had been stationed in Kandahar in 2022 under the supervision of the U.S. Army. K-9 Unit Bravo 6. His assigned handler? Sergeant Thomas Willis. Daniels leaned back in his chair. Stunned. There it was. Black and white proof that Max and Lily's father had worked together overseas. Further notes confirmed Max had completed 2 rotations under Tom's command before being flown back for reassignment after Tom's death during a combat mission. No wonder Max had reacted the way he did. Dogs never forgot their handlers, not when they built that kind of bond. And clearly, Max hadn't forgotten Tom or his scent. Even more surprising was that Lily had remembered Max too. She had been barely 2 years old when Tom died. Yet something deep within her had recognized the dog through smell, through energy, or maybe something else entirely. Daniels stood, heart pounding, and headed to the K-9 equipment room. Inside a locker labeled Retired Gear Max, he found a sealed bag of items returned with the dog from military service. In it, there were old vests, training harnesses, and a pair of worn combat gloves. He lifted one glove carefully, turning it over in his hand. On the inner cuff, faded but still legible, with the stitched initials. TW. His chest tightened. Daniels carefully placed the glove in a small evidence bag and drove straight to the Willis home. Amanda greeted him at the door, Lily peeking curiously from behind her mother's leg. Max, already sitting in the front seat of the cruiser, leapt out and patted gently toward Lily like he'd never left her side. I found something, Daniels said softly. He handed Amanda the bag. Her hands trembled as she opened it. When she pulled out the glove, a sharp gasp escaped her lips. Her knees weakened, and she had to grip the doorframe to steady herself. Those are Tom's, she whispered. Lily, silent at first, looked up at the glove and gently touched the fabric. She closed her eyes. That's the smell, she said. That's the one. Max walked forward and sniffed the glove. Then, without hesitation, he sat beside Lily and gently laid his head against her leg. Amanda couldn't hold back the tears. Neither could Daniels. Lily, Amanda said between quiet sobs, do you want to keep Max with us for a while? Lily didn't speak. She simply hugged Max's neck tightly, burying her face in his fur. That was all the answer they needed. Daniels cleared his throat. I'll talk to the chief. Max's retirement is overdue anyway. I think he's found where he belongs. Amanda smiled through her tears. So do I. And just like that, a bond that began years earlier in a war zone had quietly returned home through a child's memory, a dog's loyalty, and a legacy that refused to be forgotten. This wasn't just healing. It was a reunion born of loyalty, loss, and love that had outlived the battlefield. Officer Daniels drove home in near silence that evening. The events of the past 2 days clung to him like fog. Every so often, he glanced at the empty passenger seat where Max usually rode. But this time, Max wasn't with him. He was at the Willis home, lying peacefully on a blanket next to Lily, like a guardian rediscovered. And somehow, Daniels knew that was exactly where Max was meant to be. At the precinct the next morning, Daniels scheduled a meeting with the police chief. He arrived holding Max's deployment file, a photograph of Tom and Max in Afghanistan, and the worn combat glove with Tom's initials still stitched inside. The chief, a hardened man with 30 years of service, listened carefully. At first, he seemed skeptical until Daniels laid out the timeline, the evidence, and Lily's unforgettable words. When he handed over the photo, the chief's face changed. This is Max? He asked, eyes narrowing. Yes, sir, Daniels replied. Same dog, same handler, Sergeant Tom Willis. We had no idea when Max was assigned to us. But the connection between him and Lily, it's real. The chief stared at the glove, quiet for a long time. Finally, he nodded. Let's do the right thing. Max deserves retirement. And that little girl? She deserves part of her father back. Word spread quickly across town. The police department announced Max's official retirement, citing his years of honorable service both abroad and at home. But what caught everyone's attention wasn't the paperwork, it was the story behind it. Local news stations picked it up, dubbing it the dog who found his way back. The community responded with an overwhelming wave of emotion. Cards, flowers, and letters poured into the station and the Willis home. Veterans sent messages from across the country. Parents shared how the story had moved their children to ask questions about service and sacrifice. One elderly woman mailed Lily a stuffed toy German Shepherd with a note that read, "Every hero leaves something behind. Yours came back." Max quickly adjusted to his new role as Lily's companion. Their bond grew deeper by the day. He followed her around the house like a silent shadow, curling up beside her when she napped and nudging her gently awake in the mornings. Lily, who had once been quiet and emotionally guarded, now lit up whenever she was near him. She began talking more, drawing pictures of Max and her father, and even speaking about memories Amanda didn't know she still had. One night, Amanda stood in the hallway and peeked into Lily's room. The soft hum of a lullaby played on a small speaker while Lily whispered into Max's ear. Amanda stepped closer to hear. "Daddy said you're the bravest dog," Lily murmured. "He said you saved him." Max stretched beside her, responded with a soft whimper, and placed his paw gently over her hand. Amanda backed away slowly, wiping a tear from her cheek. For the first time since Tom's death, she felt something that had been missing for two. Long-Peace. Officer Daniels continued to check in regularly. During his visits, he noticed a change not just in Max, but in himself. Being part of this story had reminded him why he joined the force in the first place. It wasn't just about protecting people, it was about connecting with them, helping them heal. Being part of something greater than the badge. One afternoon, Lily gave Daniels a crayon drawing she had made. It showed a stick-figure man in a police uniform, a little girl, and a dog with a cape. "That's you," she said proudly, pointing to the man. "You helped Max find me." Daniel smiled, touched more deeply than he could express. "No, sweetheart," he said softly. "I think Max found you all on his own." And everyone knew the truth. Max hadn't forgotten his past. He had followed his heart all the way home. It didn't take long for Lily and Max's story to spread beyond their quiet Ohio town. Within days of Max's retirement, the local news feature had gone viral. National morning shows replayed clips of Lily gently hugging the retired police dog, and headlines read, "Fallen soldier's daughter recognizes former military dog, emotional reunion captivates the nation." People across the country were moved to tears. Comment sections flooded with messages from parents, veterans, features, and even former canine handlers. The story resonated deeply, not just because of the emotion, but because of the rare, undeniable connection between a child and a dog who had both lost the same man. Amanda's phone rang constantly. Reporters wanted interviews. Schools wanted Lily to visit with Max. Organizations asked if she'd speak at memorial events. At first, Amanda was hesitant. She had guarded her daughter's world closely after Tom's passing. But after one conversation with Officer Daniels, she changed her mind. "This story isn't just about loss," Daniels had said. "It's about healing. People need that." So Amanda agreed on the condition that Lily was never pushed or put in front of a camera if she didn't want to be. To Amanda's surprise, Lily didn't hesitate. At a community veterans appreciation night held 2 weeks later, Lily stood on a stage beside Max in front of hundreds of people. She wore a white dress and held the very same photo of her dad and Max in her hand. When a volunteer handed her the mic, she didn't freeze. She didn't shy away. Instead, she took a deep breath and said softly, "This is Max. He was my daddy's best friend, and now he's mine too." The room fell silent and erupted into applause and tears. Veterans stood and saluted. Police officers wiped their eyes. Several canine handlers approached afterward, shaking Amanda's hand and kneeling to pet Max, some whispering, "Good boy," like he was still on active duty. One handler, a retired Marine named Cole, crouched beside Max and gently touched his collar. "I remember you," he said quietly. "You were the fast one." Max wagged his tail once. Lily giggled. "He still is. But only when we're chasing bubbles." Amanda laughed for the first time in a while, realizing how much light had returned to their lives since Max had come home. Soon after, the mayor of their town declared a special K9 Hero Day to honor Max's service. Local businesses donated a custom vest for him, embroidered with the words, "Forever a Soldier." Children drew pictures of Max and Lily that were hung in the town library, and the local bakery even made Max's treats dog-friendly. Biscuits in the shape of bones and badges. But what moved Amanda the most were the letters. Letters from other military families who had lost someone, from widows, from children, from strangers who had followed Lily and Max's story and felt a little less alone because of it. One mother wrote, "My son never got to meet his father. Your story gave me hope that some connections don't end, even after loss." Amanda Reed. Each one to Lily, who would smile, hold Max's paw, and say softly, "We're helping." In those weeks, Lily blossomed. Her speech became clearer. Her sleep improved. Her drawings got brighter. Therapy sessions became easier, and the house that once felt too quiet started to feel like a home again. Max had brought something back Amanda didn't even realize was missing life. And for the first time since the funeral, Amanda began to believe that they would be okay. Not because time healed all wounds, but because love, loyalty, and memory could reach farther than anyone ever expected, even through the eyes of a little girl and the heart of a dog who never forgot. Months passed, and the bond between Lily and Max only grew stronger. Every morning, Max waited patiently outside Lily's door, tail wagging the moment she stepped out. He sat beside her during breakfast, followed her as she played in the yard, and curled up beside her bed every night. To Amanda, it was as if Max had assumed the role her late husband could no longer fill, not just as protector, but as presence, constant and comforting. One sunny Saturday, Amanda took Lily and Max to a community event at the local Veterans Memorial Park. The event was hosted in honor of military families and retired K9 units. Lily wore a t-shirt with Max's photo printed on the front, proudly walking beside her furry companion as people clapped and waved. Officer Daniels was there, too, watching with pride as Lily introduced Max to children her age, telling them, "He was my daddy's partner, and now he's my hero." Some of the older veterans chuckled warmly, visibly touched. During the ceremony, a speaker read aloud a list of names of fallen soldiers. When Tom Willis' name echoed through the speakers, Amanda felt a familiar ache in her chest. But this time, it was softened by the sight of Lily standing tall, one hand on Max's head and the other holding her father's photo. Then, something unexpected happened. One of the event organizers called Amanda and Lily to the stage. Nervously, Amanda approached, not knowing what to expect. The mayor stepped forward and handed Amanda a framed proclamation. It was official recognition from the state, in honor of Staff Sergeant Tom Willis and the service and loyalty of K9 Max, for their bond of bravery and sacrifice that continues to inspire generations. Amanda's eyes filled with tears. She turned to Lily, who smiled proudly, holding Max's leash like a badge of honor. After the applause faded, a woman from the local K9 training center approached Amanda with an idea. "We've been inspired by your story," she said. "We're launching a program that pairs retired service dogs with the children of fallen soldiers. We'd like to name it after your husband." Amanda was speechless. "Call it Project Max and Lily," Lily offered cheerfully. The woman grinned. "That's even better." In the following weeks, the program took off faster than anyone expected. Donations poured in. Volunteers signed up. Families from across the country reached out, eager to connect with retired service dogs and honor the memory of those they'd lost. Amanda helped coordinate the first few matches. One child, an 8-year-old boy named Mason, had lost his father in a helicopter crash. He was paired with a Labrador named Duke, once trained for bomb detection. The moment they met, Mason's mother wept because for the first time in 2 years, her son smiled. Word continued to spread. News networks covered the initiative. Schools taught students about the unique bond between service dogs and soldiers. Even the military began to take notice. Amanda never intended to become the face of a movement. But the more she watched lives change through the same kind of healing Max had brought to her daughter, the more she knew Tom's legacy was still alive, just in a new form. Officer Daniels, now promoted to sergeant, remained close with the Willis family. Every Sunday, he brought over fresh dog treats for Max and helped with yard work. But one Sunday, he arrived with something else, a small wooden plaque. Amanda read it aloud. "To the ones who serve, and those who carry their love forward through fur, through family, through forever." Lily smiled and hugged Max. Max barked once, almost in approval. In that moment, Amanda realized something important. Her husband's story hadn't ended the day he died. It had simply changed form, passing from father to daughter, from soldier to service dog, and from grief to purpose. It had been almost a full year since Lily first locked eyes with Max in that police station. A moment that had seemed so simple, but turned out to change everything. In that year, what began as a quiet connection between a little girl and a retired police dog had grown into something far greater, a movement of healing, a legacy reborn, and a bridge between the past and the future. Project Max and Lily was thriving. Over 24 children of fallen soldiers had already been paired with retired service dogs. Amanda, once a grieving widow barely holding her life together, had now become the heart of the organization. She handled logistics, counseling support, and spoke at events across the country, always with Lily and Max by her side. But it was a quiet afternoon at home that brought Amanda the most unexpected closure. She was sorting through an old storage box in the garage, one she hadn't opened since Tom's funeral. It was filled with letters, photos, military badges, and tucked at the bottom was something she didn't remember ever seeing before. A sealed envelope with her name on it, in Tom's handwriting. With trembling hands, she opened it. The letter was dated 2 weeks before his final deployment. In it, Tom had written about his hopes, fears, and most of all, his love for his family. But it was one line near the end that stopped Amanda cold. "If something ever happens to me, I want you to tell Lily about Max. Tell her he's the one I trusted with my life. And maybe, just maybe, he'll help her when I can't." Tears rolled down Amanda's cheeks as she held the letter to her chest. Somehow, even in death, Tom had reached forward in time, guiding them all toward healing. Later that night, Amanda read the letter to Lily, who listened quietly, holding Max close. "So, Daddy picked Max for me?" Lily asked. Amanda nodded. "He did, and Max picked you too." Lily leaned her head against Max's side. "Then he's still watching us. Right, Mommy?" Amanda smiled. "Every day, sweetheart." That summer, the town unveiled a new bronze statue at the Veterans Memorial Park. It depicted a soldier kneeling beside a K9, hand resting gently on the dog's head. Beneath it was an inscription, in memory of those who served and the silent partners who stood beside them. At the dedication ceremony, Lily placed a small bouquet of white flowers at the base of the statue. She stood silently, Max sitting. At attention beside her, the moment was quiet, powerful, unforgettable. Over time, Max began to slow down. His steps grew shorter, his naps longer. Amanda knew the day would come when they'd have to say goodbye, and the thought of it made her heart ache. But she also knew something else. Max had fulfilled his purpose. He had kept one more promise to his fallen handler. He had loved, protected, and healed a little girl when she needed it most. And when the time did come, years later, Max passed peacefully in his sleep, curled beside Lily like always. The town mourned. Flags were lowered. Letters poured in from families he'd never even met, all touched by the story of one dog and one child who helped change how people viewed loss, memory, and love. Lily, now older, gave a short speech at his farewell ceremony. Standing on the same stage where she once introduced Max to the world, she said, "He wasn't just a dog. He was a soldier. He was my best friend. And he brought my dad back to me in a way no one else could." The crowd stood in silence, some weeping, others simply holding their breath. Amanda closed her eyes and felt peace. The circle had closed, not with an ending, but with a continuation. Tom had served with courage. Max had carried his loyalty. And Lily had turned their story into something everlasting. Because sometimes, all it takes is a little girl, a stare, and a few whispered words to remind the world that love never dies. It simply finds a new way to speak.